I really give no fucks whether you want to take the vaccine or not. Like, that's not, I have no like agenda around that. I believe in informed medical consent and choice about what you choose to do with your body. And that's really like, from my perspective, that's where I am. That's where I'm, I can't see at the current juncture that will change, because for me, I'm seeing it at a different level. I'm seeing it from a different perspective. People are so caught up in their war against each other about whether or not you should have this vaccine, about whether or not like this vaccine is going to destroy humanity, that they're not recognizing and realizing that it's actually the fear that's destroying humanity. It is, the fear is the spiritual sickness. And that spiritual sickness that exists inside the soul of humanity right now is 50 million times more detrimental to humanity than this virus is.
This is Leah Steele. Welcome to the Wealth Witch podcast. Just a few years ago, I experienced complete financial collapse. We lost a business, our home, and a car. My husband was selling plasma to pay for diapers and formula. I was living a life I hated, and I was miserable. It was the lowest part of my life. It ended up being my biggest blessing. Just a few short years later, I've designed the life of my dreams. I live a life of luxury in beautiful Bali, Indonesia, travel the world, and spend my days helping others manifest wealth and abundance. Living a purpose-led life changed everything for me. This podcast is about my journey, my top tips and tools for manifestation, and interviews with all the amazing, world-changing, inspiring people I meet along the way. Welcome to my world.
I was really struggling, though, to write content yesterday, and I wasn't quite sure why. So last night I was like, I was kind of like really wanting to get the copy written because I wanted to start promoting today. I mean, we're going to promote today. I'm going to promote on this live stream. I'm going to tell you about it on this live stream. I'm literally already promoting it, but I wanted to like get the sales page out first thing this morning. And so I really wanted to have the text written, but it just like wasn't coming through. And so I finally at like 8:30, I was like, all right, I'll just, I'll write it in the morning. And I was getting my hair done. And so I was writing while they were doing my hair. And, I was just like, had this realization yesterday. I was talking with one of my spiritual teachers yesterday. Actually, what ended up happening is I did some hape, and I haven't done hape for a while because I've been sick. Hape or rape, like people say lots of different ways. It's a tobacco that's blended with the ash of these ancient trees that are prayed over by shamans for thousands of years. And it's a really like grounding medicine. And so I did some hape yesterday, hadn't done it for a couple of weeks, and got this super strong message that I needed to reach out to one of my spiritual teachers and talk to them about and share with them basically what I shared on the live stream yesterday. And so when I was talking to him, just having these realizations of like, I've been feeling really sad for the last week, like really, really sad, and just sad for humanity, and like this like gut wrenching and heartbreaking sadness. And as I was talking to this man yesterday, and I was just kind of sharing some of the things that I shared on the live stream yesterday about sort of the infiltration of the programming in the virus, and how that's affecting people. We started having this conversation about that not everybody's going to make it through this thing, and so as I was writing this morning, that was like really coming through, and I'm sure some of it will be represented in the sales page. I'll probably turn it into a post, and then we'll repurpose some of it in the sales page. But it's for so long, I really truly believed that if we hit the critical mass, like if enough of us woke up, that we hit the critical mass, that percentage, like the Ascension Principle, right? Which is like you get a certain number of people on the planet awake, and then you hit a critical mass where it brings the rest, it up-levels the rest of humanity. I really believed in that. I believed in that, up until probably this virus, until this time in humanity. Like, I really have believed that. I thought that if we reached this critical mass, that like everyone would ascend. Like, I believed that we were all here on this planet at this time to, achieve fifth dimensional and sixth dimensional consciousness. Like, I really, truly thought that. And, I've realized now that that's not what's going to happen. That's not, we can't wake up. We're not going to be able to wake up everyone. And in fact, so much of humanity is already lost. I'm not on here and I'm not sharing this to be like all doom and gloom, but it's like, I've just realized that we can't save everyone. And so I started to reflect back on like what my journey with this has been. And, I just think back to the kind of knowing that we had that we needed to move out of the United States. And so, that came in 2017. I had this knowing like we need to get out of the United States and my husband too. And like at this point, like, we didn't even understand why. We just knew that we needed to leave the United States. And so cut to 2018 and, it's been basically, we've been in Bali 3 years. We just had our 3-year anniversary of living in Bali. And so we moved to Bali, and it was like, as soon as I landed here, as soon as I got here and was like really able to tap into the energy of Bali, it was like the fucking matrix started unraveling. And, for those of you that know about Bali, it's like, there's so many different things that we could talk about, right? Like, and I don't know that it's important that, with like anything that I put out there with this live stream, take what serves you, leave the rest, right? Like, you can believe this stuff, you cannot believe it. If there's something that resonates with you here, take that and leave the rest. But if we talk about the grid lines on the planet and we talk about the energy ley lines essentially of the planet, it's like Bali is just off the grid of control. Like, Bali is just outside of the matrix. And Bali certainly is not perfect, right? And it has, there are some grid lines and some ley lines into China, in Indonesia, and in Bali. And that, it's like Australia and Indonesia and this part of the world are affected by some grid lines into China. And I think we're seeing that play out right now. And we're certainly going to see that play out in the next year or so. But we're out of that sort of European, North American, and even South American grid system of control and manipulation. And so as I was here and as I was really able to like disconnect from that, I started seeing things that I had never seen before in my life. And, so at the same time, I'm becoming an emotional clearing practitioner, and then an advanced emotional clearing practitioner, and then having my modality downloaded to me. I was writing in this post today. I was like, how sick are you of our fucking languaging, in the spiritual community, our languaging and our rhetoric? Like, every time I go to write something, I'm like, it's like the term is downloaded. Like, it literally was downloaded to me. It was given to me. It was shared with me, right, by my ancestors or by my guides, guardians, spirits, God, creator, source, universe, all that is, whatever you call it. But it's like, I'm so sick of the word downloaded. I'm like trying to find a new word, but I'm just like, oh, it's so annoying. Anyway, so my personal modality comes through to me. And so I I was thinking back to when we first got here, which was like fall of 2018. And I just was having this like crazy sense of urgency. It's like, I believe that was the first time that I actually had my calling to like what I'm actually meant to do on this planet. And that's becoming more and more clear, as this thing progresses. But if you've been following me for a long time, you can think back to those live streams in the fall of 2018. And they were like, it was this sense of urgency of me trying to get people to step into their purpose work because I felt something was coming. And it was like, and non-coincidentally, it was around that time that Ouroboros was, that I started receiving the information about Ouroboros, which is my quantum wealth repatterning program. And so, I was trying to get people to wake up. I was trying to get people to see that something big was about to happen and was about to shift in humanity. And I didn't fully understand it. I didn't even fully understand it in September of 2019. But so, it's like that happened. And so it was like for a year, I was like doing these like ranty live streams. You know what I mean? And if you know me, you know the type where I'm like yelling at people like, get your shit together. It's time, right? But so it was like I could feel this war was coming, and I knew that we needed as many soldiers prepared as possible. And I was doing my best to try to share that urgency. And I swear to God, like, come fall of 2019, I knew that something was coming in first quarter of 2020. I didn't know what it was. And I swear, I think like 2/3 of my community thought I had lost the plot because I was being so, I was like, now is the time. Like, now is the time. You have to shift. You have to open your eyes. You have to disconnect from this programming and conditioning. And that was like, I didn't know what was coming, but I knew it was going to change the face of humanity. And several times over the last year, I've gone back and reviewed those live streams from the fall of 2019, because it almost seems impossible that I felt so strongly about the fact that something was coming, and I knew it was coming in first quarter. And I was talking about first quarter. Well, as by March of 2020, the shit had completely hit the fan. I had no idea it was going to be this, but I knew that there was a major power play coming. I could feel it. And from that time, I also knew that the real true pandemic was fear. Like, I knew that was how they were going to control us. If we just talk about the David Hawkins scale of consciousness, like, that vibration of fear is so low on the scale of consciousness. It's debilitating when it's activated. And, now the more that I just am sitting with my personal feelings as I was battling this virus, I know that this was intentionally programmed into this thing. Because fear is such a debilitating pathology. And, I think that the separation, like, I began to feel the separation in 2018, and it was like, and I actually talked quite a lot about it, like that it was okay, right? That some of us were shifting into a new timeline, that the separation was okay, but I didn't realize the extent of the divide that was about to occur. And so we've got this divide, right? And there's a couple of divides that I'm talking about. So one is just overall in the world, we have this massive divide, right? And I don't think we have any way of knowing how balanced or unbalanced it is, because all we're being served is propaganda. from both sides, right? Both sides are delivering full force programming, conditioning, brainwashing. And so we don't actually have a way of knowing, how many people, we've got people that don't even believe that there's a virus. We've got people that believe there's a virus. There's people that believe that the virus was man-made. There's people that believe that it wasn't. There's people that believe that you should get vaccinated. There's people that believe that you shouldn't, right? And so we've got all of these differences of opinion. But what's fueling all of it is fear, right? No matter where you stand on that spectrum, the result is the same. You are being controlled and manipulated by fear, right? And it's really interesting because it's the same thing that, I've been saying about the political parties in the United States. It's the same thing as the division that we experience around race. Like, it's all control and manipulation, right? So here's the thing. I don't know that the global elite actually give a fuck whether you want to get vaccinated or not, right? Now, certainly there is another part of this that is the financial power play that comes from the big pharma side of this. And that's a very real thing. And that certainly serves the global financial agenda and the financial elite, getting as many people as possible to buy into taking that pharmaceutical creation, right? But the truth of the matter is that they're making their money through PCR tests and antigen tests, and they are capitalizing on the fear, whether you choose to take the vaccine or not. So if you look at this, and again, I'm just going to say for the record, like, I really give no fucks whether you want to take the vaccine or not. Like, that's not, I have no agenda around that. I believe in informed medical consent and choice about what you choose to do with your body. And that's really, from my perspective, that's where I am. That's where I'm, I can't see at the current juncture that will change, because for me, I'm seeing it at a different level. I'm seeing it from a different perspective. People are so caught up in their war against each other about whether or not you should have this vaccine, about whether or not this vaccine is going to destroy humanity, that they're not recognizing and realizing that it's actually the fear that's destroying humanity. It is, the fear is the spiritual sickness. And that spiritual sickness that exists inside the soul of humanity right now is 50 million times more detrimental to humanity than this virus is. And, they've been trying to control us in lots of ways for a really, really long time. And it hasn't had the success that they've desired. And so now all of a sudden, we've been being prepared for years for this pandemic, right? We have been being controlled because we have been being fed through the media, through our movies, through our television shows, an outbreak, a coming pandemic. And so we were desensitized to it, and we were programmed to respond in the way in which they wanted us to respond, which was through fear, right? To allow the fear to completely grip us and paralyze us. So now we have this spiritual sickness that's been anchored in with fear. And it doesn't matter what side you sit on, right? It doesn't matter if you sit on the side of believing that the vaccine's going to cure the virus and save everyone, or if you sit on the side of believing that the vaccine is going to kill everyone. And you know what I mean? We have these two opposing forces, but it really doesn't matter because both sides are operating from fear. And that sickness has infiltrated the systems of both sides of people. And so, for me, I think that's the sadness that I'm feeling is wow, not everyone's going to make it through this, and not everyone can be saved. And so it's really important that we decide that you decide, if you're here, you're one of these 44 people. Of course, there's 44 people watching when I say that. If you're one of these 44 people that are watching this live stream, that you really have to make a conscious decision right now about who you're going to be. Are you going to allow this spiritual sickness, this fear, this debilitating fear pandemic to ravage you and your system and your life and continue to control and manipulate you? Or are you going to choose to opt out of that? Are you going to begin to see how this control and manipulation and programming and conditioning is playing out across the planet? And, for me, it's difficult to even begin to have these conversations, because I know that because of where I'm living, I have a different perspective than a lot of people. If I was living in the United States right now, I wouldn't have this same perspective. I wouldn't be able to see the way that I see, simply because I'm literally not on that grid system. So as a result, I can see things that you guys that are living in the United States can't even see. You are walking around in a country with an energetic vibration and frequency of control and manipulation and fear. And you are being fed propaganda, extremist propaganda on both sides of this story and both sides of this argument. And so it's really, really difficult to be objective when you have this constant energetic, emotional, spiritual, physical onslaught of propaganda, programming, and conditioning. Like it's really difficult. And so, now I'm feeling, now it's like, okay, now here's the realization. Not everyone can be saved. Many people are going to be lost. So we've got and we'll talk about Healy in a second, because what a fucking incredible tool of awakening. But we've got that divide, right? Of just what side of the world you're on. Then we've got another divide that's happening inside the spiritual community, or it's happening spiritually, right? And I believe we're all infected with the spiritual sickness of fear, right? Like we've all been successfully infected. But within the spiritual community, we have these extremes as well, right? We have people that are believing in this critical mass ascension theory still. And then we've got people that, I think are having the realizations that I'm having, that not everyone can be saved. Not everyone's going to be able to be saved. So it's time to stop trying to save everyone. And so for a while, it was like, I felt like I was activating, and there's another one of those words, activating. I felt like I was activating and empowering, another one of those words, leaders to step into their sovereignty so that they could, and free themselves from programming and conditioning, so that they could then go out and create this ripple effect. And then the result of all of this was going to be that I had done my part to help this planet achieve the critical mass that led to the ascension of humanity into fifth and sixth dimensional consciousness, right? And so that was how I was operating. And I don't think that that's the case anymore. And so now I think that we are going to have two worlds. There are going to be two very separate realities occurring on this planet. And the choices that we're making right now and the decisions that we're making right now are going to determine where we're going to fall. So it's interesting, because I'm like, all of that media propaganda, all of those movies, all of those television shows, it's happening. It's people might not be eating each other's brains yet. I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that, but who the fuck knows? But we have a there are zombies walking this planet for sure, 1,000,000%. And more people are falling into that category because they are allowing the fear to consume them. And then they are blindly following what they're being told by their governments, their financial institutions and organizations, their regulatory bodies and controlling organizations. And they're buying what they're being fed hook, line, and sinker. And they're not thinking for themselves. They're not actually approaching everything from a place of curiosity and objectivity and neutrality, like energetic neutrality. And this is the biggest problem that I see across the board is like, even the people that are trying to wake up from the programming that recognize and realize that they're being programmed, like they still are approaching this from a energetically charged place, right? They're like out there, this is all the meme lord fighters, right? Like they're like so upset and they're so frustrated and they're like, so they're sending this negative energetic charge out into the planet, which is perpetuating more fear. So for me, it's like the place that we need to approach this from is this position of neutrality. Like that is what combats this fear pandemic. That's what combats this spiritual sickness, is being in a place of energetic neutrality where we're objective, where we're able to see both sides, where we're able to like actually understand and embrace duality, where we're able to see other people's positions, where we're not trying to force our beliefs on other people. And so my calling, I think, is really shifting to this place of no longer trying to wake everyone up. Like it just, that ship has sailed, that time has passed. Like we've crossed that threshold in humanity, wherever that place was years ago, where that critical mass theory was a reality and we were going to be able to shift the entire collective into fifth and sixth dimensional consciousness. Like the ship has sailed, the time has passed. Like that's over now. So we can keep trying to cling on to that. But at the end of the day, it's like, why? That is another it's another set of programming and conditioning, right? To keep us believing that somehow we can shift all of humanity into that level of consciousness. Like it's not a reality. And so for me, I think it's making choices. It's about making choices right now about how you want to live your life and where you want to be in the next 5 or 10 years. And if you are going to allow this fear pandemic to continue to control and manipulate you. And it's not just as easy as being like, oh, I opt out, because all the choices and decisions that you make, including where you live, including, how you're schooling your children, like it's all tied in. And it begins with being willing to look at how we're being controlled and manipulated and to deconstruct that programming and conditioning. And so, for me, I've been so frustrated. I've been sick for 3 weeks. I've been super frustrated. I'm like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me in the middle of my biggest launch of the year? Like we're in launch for Ouroboros, my quantum wealth repatterning program, which isn't about money and wealth, by the way. It's literally the access point to help people wake up to this programming and conditioning and help people step into sovereignty and greater levels of worthiness and deserving of their divine birthright, which is to be free and be sovereign beings. So I'm like, oh, this isn't fair. Why is this happening? And now, just as I'm coming out of the fog this last few days, I'm realizing, I'm like, oh, this all happened for a reason, because there is something so powerful coming through and into this round of Ouroboros. And just the way things are lining up, Priya, are you on this call? I think you're actually on here, but I got this message from one of my clients this morning, and she was like, hey, I watched your live stream yesterday. really wondering where you feel like the programming in the virus is coming from. What dimension is it coming from? And it was such an incredible message to get, because it activated something in me where I was like, oh, it's third dimension, right? It's 3D. It's very 3D. But there's something there. They are using and manipulating energy from ninth dimensional consciousness to really anchor this fear into the virus. And so it's like, I knew yesterday as I was going to sleep, I was like, something huge is coming through in this round of Ouroboros. And if you've done Ouroboros with me, or you've heard about my work in Ouroboros, I add something new every single round. So we're going into the 5th round. So there's always something new coming through. And now it's like, I know I had to have the sickness. I know I needed to have all this fear activated in my system so that I could see like the root of this spiritual sickness. And now and then Priya messages me this, about, what dimension is it coming from? And it's like, now I know, now I'm opening myself up to receiving the information. And I think that this is really the key. This is what is going to be, coming through for my new contribution in this round of Ouroboros, is how we prevent the anchoring in of this fear, and how we release it from our system for those of us, which is all of us, where it's already rooted in. And so, yeah, I'm so excited about this round of Ouroboros, because I know every round has been transformative, but I knew this is round 5. We're in a 5 universal year this year, which is change, growth, expansion, right? I knew that energetically this round of Ouroboros was going to be really, really fucking powerful. And now I'm like, it's about something so much bigger. It's about something so much bigger. And even, I went through, many of you know this, 12-week ceremony with my husband, that was bookended by these plant medicine ceremonies, and they were really difficult for me. I had a lot of, speaking of alien tech, I had a lot of alien tech that had to be disconnected from my system. Just really, really powerful healing processes that happened to me over the last several months. And, stuff that I wasn't even really sure that I believed in, that I'm is such a reality, to me now, that, because everything has shifted for me and everything has changed for me. And it's a little bit scary because, if you know me, I share in my Telegram channel my thoughts and feelings and beliefs on a lot of this stuff, but it's not something that I really share out publicly, especially on Facebook, because of the visibility, and it's energetic visibility. It's not just visibility to actual people on Facebook. It's multidimensional energetic visibility. And that's something that, I've had a lot of fear around, but it was because of some of the things that were in my system that were controlling me. And so now I'm like, okay, here I am. I'm ready to actually start speaking publicly about these things. I'm ready to start, sharing and answering my calling, and really doing what I'm here to do, which is to help people break free from this spiritual sickness and to deconstruct this fear pandemic and this programming and conditioning that's anchored into our system. And so, I obviously, as I was coming out of this, downloaded that I wanted to do this 24-hour event, really, really focused around unveiling the matrix, really allowing us to see, and bringing in experts and bringing in people that, really fully grasp and understand this, and getting them involved and getting them sharing with you how to deconstruct this. And so we're doing that next Saturday on the 31st, and super excited about it. We've already got some incredible people lined up to come and share with you. And there's going to be emotional clearing work, and there's going to be deconstruction of programming. And there's going to be a lot of experiential and practical application of tools that you can be using in your day-to-day life to unhook from all of these anchors that are anchoring you into this matrix. And so I'm super excited about this event. I contemplated doing it for free, but I really felt like there needed to be an energetic exchange. And so it's $44. It's a 24-hour event, and it will be starting at 8 a.m. on Bali time on the 31st, and it will be going till 7:59 a.m. on August 1st. July 31st, August 1st, 24-hour period. It'll be facilitated via Zoom, so you'll be able to hop onto the Zoom, hop on and off of the Zoom throughout the 24-hour period. And then we will also be putting all of that content into a Facebook group, so you'll be able to watch on the replay anything that you missed during the 24-hour period. And then for those people that aren't on Facebook, if you know people that aren't on Facebook that you feel like would want to be involved in this, we will also be putting it on my membership site on Kartra, so you'll be able to just access it through the internet as well. I also have done something that I've never actually done before with this event, which is that I've opened up affiliate sales for everyone, anyone that wants to promote this. I've opened up affiliate sales. So normally you have to have participated in my program in order to do affiliate sales, because I really truly believe that to be in full integrity with selling something, you have to have experienced it. You know what I mean? And so that's part of why I only allow Ouroboros alumni to sell Ouroboros. Once you've signed up, you have the ability to be an affiliate, because I feel like this message it really needs to get out there. And we need to help as many people as we possibly can right now begin to detach. And, again, it's but doing that and promoting it without agenda, and knowing that there's so many people out there that this isn't going to reach, that it can't reach because they're too far gone. But those that aren't, this is the type of offering you're going to see coming from me. This is the type of shifting and changing where it's we're actually giving. It's not just talk. It's not just, and that's been the basis of the Ouroboros program anyway. It's not a mindset your way to millions program. It's a deeply deconstructive programming, deconstructing programming and conditioning around money, wealth, and abundance, and worthiness and deserving, and being able to step into economic and personal sovereignty. Same thing here. Mindset work is an incredible foundation for anything and everything in your life, but it doesn't help you through this war that we're currently waging for the soul of humanity. People have to have actual tools that they can use. They have to have practical applications. And so that's what we're going to be providing at this event. So I would love to have you join us. So I'm just going to go through and answer some of the questions before we hop off. But so there was one here that says, I get it, yet it's so hard when the majority of your family is living in fear and might not make it. Can you speak to that? I mean, this is the hardest thing that we have to realize, right? Yeah. I mean, all of us, everyone that's on this live stream, I'm sure has family that you're they're not going to make it. And it's so hard because our family is the family component is one of the ways, the ways of manipulation that are being used to get us to comply. That fear of being kicked out of the tribe, that fear of losing our family. And, I don't really know what to say to that. I don't know how to help people. I think that there's definitely going to be something in this deconstruction of however they're anchoring in this illness through this 9th dimensional consciousness and this 3D consciousness. I think there's going to be something in there that's going to be really helpful, but not in saving our family, helpful in letting go and realizing that not everyone's going to be able to be saved. Oh yeah. So let's talk about Healy actually. I think that we do have this incredible device. It's when Healy came into my world, I was I knew that it was here to shift the collective consciousness of the planet. And it's really amazing how bringing ourselves back into bioenergetic balance, our actual body and being back into energetic balance, using frequencies to bring us back into balance, helps us to see, right? It really is like using the frequencies on a daily basis. And it's why you see inside the Healy community so many awake people, and people waking up that like, you know, they got the device because they had some kind of physical concern or health concern. And then like all of a sudden their level of consciousness is just blowing up and expanding, and they're like seeing things they've never been able to see before. You know, and you've got people that were on one extreme, like really having their eyes opened to the possibilities of like what's available to them in this lifetime. And so, you know, I can't say enough about Healy and how important it is right now as a tool of consciousness, and as a tool of overall wellness. So if you don't have a Healy and you want more information on Healy, reach out to me. I'm so happy to share information, have you come and join our team. If you want to make a business out of it, or, you know, if not, if you just want the device for yourself, like I believe that everyone should have one of these, you know. And the thing that's really interesting about that as well is like, I'd kind of fallen off. Like I was using my Healy a few times a week, but I wasn't using it every day anymore. But when I got sick, I started using my device every single day again, right? Like 3 times a day, every single day, running my Healy. And now I'm like remembering that, like how expansive it's just like when we come back into alignment and we're balancing the frequencies, and then our internal ecology has the defense mechanisms to ward off and fight off the external manufactured manipulative frequencies that are coming at us, right? So it's like, but it's a defense mechanism, you know, like, because when we actually come back into true alignment and balance with who we're meant to be, like it's very difficult for that control and manipulation to come to us from outside of us. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like also as I'm downloading this information about how to deconstruct this, that there's program protocol within Healy to help us extract this virus, you know? It's like, and when I'm saying virus, I'm not talking about coronavirus. I'm talking about the sphere, like the sphere that's being programmed into us. That I do believe the virus is carrying, by the way. Like I do believe that it was manufactured and it's carrying the sphere inside of it. And I believe the vaccine has it as well. Like I really truly believe that like the entire thing has been orchestrated with the purpose of controlling us through fear, so that we're easier to control, so that we're easier to manipulate. And ultimately, again, it's like, what's the overall overreaching purpose of this? To serve the global financial agenda. And if you haven't seen that, or you can't see that, like that's really what you need to open your eyes to, because ultimately it all comes down to power, control, manipulation, and it has to do with money and power. And keeping us operating as compliant commodities. And it's why the spiritual community is labeled with heresy so often, because the spiritual community, when awake, right, and when an energetically, emotionally, spiritually balanced place, we are the biggest threat to that, because we can see, right? So I think that's all I have for today. It feels like that was a lot. So if you want more information on Healy, send me a PM. I'm happy to chat with you more about that. Please join us in the 24-hour event. I would love to have you join us there. $44. I promise you, I can promise you, you will get 10 or 20 or 30 times that investment back in value. Again, it's like, it felt really important that we have an energetic exchange, that people be willing to energetically commit to showing up at the event, and providing that value exchange. But we did it for ridiculously low because we want it to be accessible to people. But I think there's something to be said there too. It's like, you know, if you really are serious about deconstructing this programming, you really are serious about stepping out of that, like you're willing to invest $44 to make that happen, or to be given, even just to be given different points of view or perspectives or information. Like, and I can tell you that I will be talking more about this ninth dimensional consciousness and third dimensional consciousness. And I may even be doing some kind of activation, or deactivation, as the case may be, in the 24-hour event this week. So I think that's it. So I am going to hop off. I love you all. Bye-bye.
Until next time, this is Leah Steele, the Wealth Witch, signing off. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining me. Remember, wealth is a mindset, and you are the most powerful creator in your reality. Until next time, this is Leah Steele, the Wealth Witch, signing off.